Hello everyone and welcome to the first official episode of the Life's a Learning Curve podcast with me, your host, Alicia. Now I am incredibly proud to be bringing you this podcast, and I really do hope you enjoy and you find a friend in me through these episodes. Just a little bit of an introduction to me and the reason that I decided to develop this podcast. So I am a 23-year-old and I am a master's student at a university, and this university gave me the opportunity to focus on one singular project for an 11-month period, and it was my job to bring this project up from the ground. Now, after a few weeks of deciding what I wanted to do, I decided that I wanted to start my own podcast. Throughout my university journey, I had done a lot of hypothetical briefs and a lot of live briefs for different brands, but I'd never truly made something that was mine and that I got to take away and actually have. And this is why this podcast is here. It is mine, and it is something that I'm going to continue to carry on with after my university studies have finished. And the whole launch of it is after my MA degree show, where I present all of my campaign ideas, all of my promotional ideas, and the content of the podcast to an expedition that will have guests, friends and family come and view at a private degree show in September. The whole concept of this podcast is to be able to give you real, raw and authentic stories and experiences about what we've experienced in life and share them with you, so you can feel a little less alone through some experiences that might be similar that you're going through currently. And that is the true purpose of this. I want you to understand that we all go through these curves that life throws at us, whether they're the highs or the lows, but it's okay, and you do not have to feel like you are the only person going through it, because I can promise you, we've probably all been through something similar. And through the stories and the experiences that I share on here, I want you to learn ways that you could possibly deal with those issues or deal with those situations. I'm not claiming to be a therapist or a counsellor or someone who has all the answers. I'm just a girl who has had some experiences, wants to share some experiences with guests as well to help you navigate your life pretty much. And if I can help one person, then that is my mission complete. So that's a little bit about the podcast, so let's get into the rest of the episode. So this episode is quite fitting for the first ever episode of this podcast, and we're going to be talking about the idea of change. Now, doing this podcast is such a big change for myself. It's something that, if you had told me this time last year when I was thinking about my master's degree that like by this time next year you're going to have a podcast that you've built up and you're going to be recording content for it, I would be like, what on earth are you going on about? What do you mean that's what I'm doing? But embracing the ability to, through embracing the ability to want to construct and develop this podcast, I've constructed and developed my own confidence in saying, yeah, do you know what? I can do that. And it's been a whole roller coaster of different emotions. There's been a lot of imposter syndrome. There's been a lot of like, God, is this the right thing that am I qualified to even do this? And now I'm at a point where I'm like, do you know what? It's my life. This is something I've built up, I've created. Why the hell would you not want to do it? Why the hell would you not just want to give it a go and just embrace this bit of change to your life now? You're a podcast host, you're a content creator for your podcast, you're a host to guests on your own podcast. What a change to your life that is, and how incredibly proud. How incredibly proud should I be for doing that? So yeah, today's episode is about change and just how we can kind of learn to adopt it and not be scared of it, because have I been scared of change before. It can be scary and it can be something that we can be fearful of, but it can also be something that's truly beautiful and really enlighten you and open doors to different adventures in your life that you wouldn't have known if you didn't take the leap and you didn't take the chance. So if you think that's a little bit of you, continue listening or watching via YouTube or Spotify, and I can't wait to get into this episode with you. Now, if you are watching at home, you will have seen that I am wearing a jumper, and my hair is hiding it, but this is a prototype of future, hopefully, merchandise for the podcast. I just thought I'd wear it for the first episode today because it just feels fitting. This is going to be on display at my degree show as well, just to show the future developments of the podcast, hopefully, that could be available to listeners and my audience. Anyway. So, change. Let's actually get up the definition of change before we do anything else, because I feel like the definition will kind of give us a clearer idea of what to expect. Okay, here we go. So in the dictionary, change can be understood as a verb or a noun. To make / someone or something different, alter or modify. Replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is newer or better. Substitute one thing for another. It's an act or a process through which something becomes different, and it also, it coins as, it's a type of currency, change, Anyway, that's a bit irrelevant, that bit, but so if we just reflect on those, the kind of one that stood out to me most would be an act or process through which something becomes different, and to modify something. I don't like the idea of change being known as something that you use to replace something. I think that can kind of be perceived as I understand why that's understood as a definition of change, but for me, change isn't the idea of replacing something, it's an idea of growth, an idea of new opportunities. It isn't something that you just do to replace something else, personally, in my experiences. But yeah, I think I agree with those definitions, but I also have my own, like we've just heard. So to make something or modify something for it to be different is, like if you have a business, for example, and you have this business concept and it's going well, but you've heard upcoming trends or upcoming consumer trends and differences, and you think, do you know what, like we've got this business plan here, but I think we could change this so it could be better, to improve something, like I said, for something to grow. That's what change is. You're not changing something for the worse, you're changing something for the better. Like, why would you change something for it to be worse? It doesn't make sense. Change is all about growth and development. It isn't about taking a step back, it's about taking a step forward. And if we can adapt that to our life experiences and opportunities and situations, then it's hard to go wrong, really. I don't think anyone wants to do change for a bad reason. I don't think anyone wants to do change for a reason that will, kind of dishonour themselves. Change is something that should represent you, and it should allow you to glow as a person, as a business, or in a situation you're in. It should be something that you look forward to adopting. Change is something in my life that I have gone on quite a journey with. I have been in experiences and gone through situations in my life where change has been such an incredibly hard thing to do. It has been something that I have kind of been in denial about doing at times. And I think a lot of that is to do with the situations I was in, or situations and experiences that I have experienced. But I think it's also to do with your maturity and your age. When I think back to certain situations where I was struggling to conform to changes of structure, for example, I remember being so upset, so tearful about having to change my life and get used to alternate situations or alternate life experiences. And eventually I got to a point where I said, do you know what, it is what it is. This is where we are, this is the situation we're in, and that's okay. You live and you learn, and you carry on, and the world keeps spinning. And it did, and it has, and it still is. But I think the reason I struggled in certain situations in my life to appreciate and let in change is because I was scared of it. I was scared of a life that I wasn't used to. I was scared of not having the normal. And I think that is such a valid reason to be scared of change. It's a valid reason to not want change. But I think the power in overcoming that is such a greater reward than staying in the fearfulness of it. Moving past the fear of change allowed me to genuinely develop and grow as a person. I really allowed myself to just make the most of what I had, and make the most of life. When I kind of, in my life, when I've moved past the fearfulness of change in situations throughout, everything, when I've moved past that idea of being scared of change, there's always been a reward at the end of it. And I feel like that's something that I look forward to, because it's like, I am aware that change is scary. I'm aware that it's not really normal. Change can be something you do in your everyday, or it can be something you do monthly, weekly, yearly. But it isn't something that is like a normal routine. And having that reward when you do actually take the leap to make changes in your life, or changes to situations, or changes to businesses, or changes to your academic kind of development, it's such a nice feeling to be like, it's like it's a weight lifted off your shoulders. You're like, thank God I decided to do this, or thank God I took the leap, because look at this reward now. And I'm not saying that every change that you do in your life is going to have a reward. They're not. There's going to be some consequences sometimes, and there's going to be situations where it doesn't always work out. But having the confidence in yourself, in your business, in your relationship, in your friendship, in the situation that you're in, having the confidence to say, do you know what? Change is inevitable here, so let's do it. Let's go for it, and whatever comes of it is going to come from it, and we're going to work on it, we're going to grow on it, and it is what it is, because we need to make this change. Having that mentality is so powerful, and it's so uplifting, and it really is it's an essential part of your life. You need to be able to look at situations and say, okay, hands up, this needs to change. And being able to do that, and not having any kind of pride or ego get in the way of that, is a power tool in any situation you're in. If you're in a situation where, let's say for example, you're in a relationship but it's not the right thing for you, but you don't want to change it, you don't want to come out of it, you don't want to pull up people on it, your person, your partner on it, because change isn't something it's not something you want to do. You've been with this person for so long, or it's all and you're a relationship person. If you stop yourself from inviting in that change, then unfortunately you're never going to grow or develop as a person. You're never going to know what is on the other side of this life that you're living, if you don't allow yourself to say, do you know what, this needs to change. I need to stand up and I need to say, no, I'm not happy, or we're different now, or we have different ideas of what we want, and things need to change, and we need to grow apart. We've grown apart, and I'm voicing it. Have that confidence to say, things have changed, we're changing. It's one of these things. I would say, I personally, so we've kind of talked about the fear of why we've talked about the idea of why I've been fearful of change, in one example. But I would also say, this time last year, I was scared of beginning my master's degree, because I was beginning it alone. I didn't have anyone from my previous course who was doing it with me. My friends had gone into the industry, or they, were looking at jobs, and they weren't really interested in a master's, but I was that one little person in that class that said, no, I'll stick around and do another year at university. And although I kind of put on a front that I was so excited, I was really scared, and I had really, really bad imposter syndrome at the beginning, because of this change of my life, because of my change of normality in my university journey, I didn't have anyone who I knew before. I was meeting all of these new people in my course for the first time. I remember being sat in a lecture. I remember being sat in a lecture at the very beginning, and I was typing up notes and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? This is not the right thing for me. Why have I done this? I should have just got a job. I should have just finished my university journey there, and I should have just got a job. And I think I was freaking out about the idea that I had committed to this change in my life. I committed to the idea that I'm not going in the industry and I'm doing a master's degree. And when I began to kind of, at the beginning, ever so slightly regret that, I thought, God, what an idiot. Why did I make this change to my life? I had everything set. I was going to go in the industry. But it worked out. And I have never been more proud of myself and more, I carry so much pride in the fact that I committed to it, even though I had those feelings of doubt at the beginning. And oh my God, what a change it has been. It's been such a positive change to myself as an individual. It's been such a positive change to my academic ability. It's been such a positive change to the way I perceive allowing in new opportunities, because if I had run away in the first week or two, I wouldn't be here right now. This podcast would not be a thing. It could have been in the future if I kind of thought about it a little bit more, but it wouldn't have been here and now. If I had run away from change and not said, oh, do you know what? It is what it is. I've committed to it. Let's just embrace it. Let's just see what it's about. Let's just give it a go. I wouldn't have had what I have now. And I think it's so beautiful, and it's actually quite emotional, because when you think of certain situations in your life, it's like, I don't like to dwell on the past and think, God, what could it have been, or what would have, what would I be like now if I hadn't done this, or if I hadn't said that, or if I didn't let this person do this. I don't like to dwell on that, but sometimes it is interesting to sit back and think, God, what, would I be a different person if I didn't let that person say that to me? Would I be a different person if, I handled that situation differently? But then I think, do you know what? Everything happens for a reason, and I am who I am right now because of my past. And even though your past doesn't define you, it gives you the tools and the structure that you need to be the person that you are right now, whether it be life lessons, whether it be achievements you've got. Your past is important, but it's not as important as your future and the person that you want to be, as long as you're willing to make changes and adopt change as a routine that you understand needs to happen in life. So that's a little bit of a full circle moment for me. But let's talk about the experiences where I have been so excited for change, and where I have been like, yeah, let's do that. I'm always looking forward to a holiday. That's a change in my routine. I'm going to say it. It is. Yeah, no, that's just a silly one. But it is. Having something that differs your routine on a daily, weekly, yearly basis is great, because if you get stuck in the normal all the time, you're not going to be full of creativity or inspiration. You're just going to be looking at the same four walls of your office or your bedroom or your living room or whatever work environment or industry you work in. You're just going to be stuck in this loop where nothing changes and nothing's coming in, nothing's going out. It's just the same continuous thing, and unfortunately you're never going to grow. You're never going to develop, because you're not getting anything new or fresh or enlightening in your life. Going on a holiday or taking your lunch break, go on a walk instead. Don't just sit in a little canteen. Or why don't you go to the library or go to an art expedition? There's nothing I love more than going down to London and visiting all the lovely expeditions they have, and that is something I look forward to each year, or have looked forward to each year during my academic journey as a university student. And I do think it is something that I'm going to adopt into my life, yearly now. I mean, me and my friend who we went to university together and we met at university together, we always talk about how much we love London, because it's such a change of routine, it's a change of pace, it's a change of environment, it's a change of society really. being up north compared to down south in London is completely different. But that change, we love it because certain places in your life or certain people in your life they give you different things. And I think for me, London's always given me more inspiration and creativity and more desire to want to develop as a person than being up north has. And that's not a bad thing, but having that little element of it and having that like glimmer of it every once in a while in my year always allows me to feel refreshed, and it's a change of pace. And then when I come home, I'm like, okay, we're back to normality, and that's great, but I've also got this and this to think about. I went to here, which was incredible, and now I can bring this into my own work. And oh, what about this? Like, having those little elements from an experience or a trip or going on holiday always allow me to feel refreshed as a person, because I've encouraged and just loved the change of my routine. Anyway, we're sidetracking about holidays. Another thing that I love kind of about change is, like I say, I used to be fearful of change, whereas now I have a shifted perspective of it. I think that let's say, for example, right, we'll talk about an example I had yesterday. So yesterday, my mum wanted to jet wash the garden, right? And unfortunately, our jet wash was not working. Now, my shift in perspective was, oh, that's so annoying, but it's fine, it is what it is. Why don't we try to do something else? Why don't we do this instead? And then something else is still done, it's just not the thing you wanted to do originally. And it was a change of direction, it was a change of perspective. It was like, oh, although we can't do what we wanted to do, let's still try and make the most of it if we can. I was going to work, so unfortunately I couldn't help that, but that's where my mind went to. My mind went to, this what we wanted to do right now isn't working. What else can we do? Think on your feet. What else can we do that will make a positive change to the situation we're trying to do and deal with? And yeah, I think through the liking of change, it changes your perspective of the way you look at things. For me personally, I always try to find the good in things. It's just something I kind of have grown with as a person, but it's also something that's grown as my ability to love change has grown, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling on now. Anyway, okay, so moving on. Another kind of example of changes, if you're watching via YouTube, if you can see my lovely banner here, this is me. Okay, and this is going to sound so minor, but the whole purpose of it is to kind of make you understand how change and understanding and not being fearful of change is a good thing. So these trousers on this logo here were not originally this purple colour, they was a blue. But when we printed it onto this lovely fabric for the banner, it pretty much just went see-through because of the colour of it. Now, I'd already kind of committed to this logo at the time, and I was like, oh god, this is not great. But do you know what, I was like, do you know what, it's fine, I've got a colour palette, let's just play around, try another colour, and it was fixed within the day. It was fine. But I feel like my past version of myself would have probably had a breakdown about that, because I would have been like, oh my god, I've already kind of signed off on this. I'm going to have to change everything now. Oh my god, but I want it to be this colour and now it's not going to look right. It's not the end of the world. It is not the end of the world to have a change something and it looks great now. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to end on this one. So I'm going to class this as a positive change, although at the time it didn't feel like it. So if you don't already know me personally, I went to university originally in September 2020 to study photography, and unfortunately that course just didn't work out for me. It just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I thought I was going to get out of studying photography at university, and ultimately it made me lose my love for it. It made me not want to be academically criticised on my photography, because for me photography is such a subjective subject. It is something that it's hard to kind of grade you on, unless you're grading on the quality of something. It's hard to kind of grade on someone's vision, on someone's ability to see something slightly different than you. It's hard to grade on that. And yeah, I just unfortunately didn't align with the course, with the way that I wanted to go ahead with my photography. And I was at a time in my life where I didn't know whether I was going to drop out of university and just see what the world had for me instead. Now, at the time, unfortunately, I wasn't the only person who felt like this on the course, and we decided to have a little bit of a shop around at different courses that the university had to offer, and thankfully I found the incredible course that I graduated from last year, and they were the best 3 years of my life on that course. And through not being scared of the idea of changing my course, now I was scared at the time, because if you don't already know, with Student Finance England, you only get 4 years of funding. So I knew whatever course I picked, it had to be the course that I was going to complete and get my degree in. So I was a bit terrified, because I thought, God, if I pick the wrong course, this is my university journey absolutely done. I can't change it, or else I'm going to have to find $9,000 from somewhere to fund another year of, whatever course I need to do. And although at the time I was scared, I also had this confidence in myself when I had my meeting with the course leader, where I was like, this is the right thing for me. This is the right thing. I'm doing the right thing for me. I'm listening to my intuition. I'm listening to myself when I know something's not right. And whatever comes of this, it's the right thing. And making that decision and embracing change, although I was scared of it, was the best possible change I could have ever done for my life. And that's why I kind of class it as a positive change, whereas at the time it felt negative, it felt scary, it felt fearful. Now when I look back at it, I'm like, I feel like that's like a true definition of change. When you're kind of a little bit uncertain of something, but you kind of know you need to do something, and it ends up being the best thing that you could have ever done for yourself. That is a positive change in my life for me, because I decided I'm not happy with where I am. I'm going to change, and we're going to see what happens. And it was the best 3 years of my life, and it was the best education that I could have received in terms of the field that I want to go into and the knowledge that I've learned. So yeah, that's kind of my roundup of change. I hope you've learned something from that, and I do genuinely hope that you understand that it's okay to be fearful of change, but don't let the fear overtake your ability to open new doors and adventures for yourself. Because if you live in that fear of not wanting to change your life, then unfortunately you're always going to live in the shadow of your future. Oh, that was quite deep. But you are. You're going to live in that shadow. You're not going to have the opportunity to genuinely grow as a person. You're limiting yourself to a life that is limited. You literally are limiting yourself to a box, basically. Whereas if you open new doors and you think of it like this, you in your head, the way I'm envisioning it is you're in a box, right? And in this box, sometimes doors can develop, and it's your choice whether you open that door or you leave it and it'll disappear and a new door will open. But if you just continue to ignore every single door that becomes available to you because you're scared of seeing what's on the other side, you're just going to stay in that same box, and you're limited to those four walls. And that's sad, because this is your life. We have one life. You deserve to live it in the way that you want. You deserve to expand your opportunities and your experiences and your knowledge, and you are owed the opportunity to grow as a person if you just take the chance and listen to yourself, trust your intuition, and know when you need to change because something isn't right. Or you want to grow as a person, you want to make changes, like you just change, like. And listen, if change doesn't work out, you can always go back to what you was doing before. There was this great lecturer that we had, I've forgotten his name now, but he kind of spoke to us a lot about change, and he kind of said there was a situation he was in where he wanted to start his business, but he was working full time for a different company, And he just said, do you know what? It's my life. I have one chance. I'm just going to go for it. And that is his full-time business. How incredible is that? He listened to himself, and he literally said to us in the lecture, I knew that if it didn't work out, it wasn't the end of the world. I could either have the confidence to go back and ask my other job, or look around in the market again to see what other opportunities there are. And that isn't to say and be naive that there's always jobs available and you're always going to get another job, but it's just allowing yourself to find comfort in that you have opportunities to make changes, and you deserve to go for them. You deserve to give it a shot, because if you don't, then it's always a what if moment, and you don't want to be left with hundreds of what if moments in your life. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you in today's episode. Like I say, I do really hope that you've learned something really positive about change in this episode, and it is something that I would like to circle back on in the future. So if you do have any suggestions, please do let me know via following us on social media. We also have a page on our website that will allow you to submit ideas or any questions you kind of want me to answer through this podcast. You can visit the website and find the page for that on there that will allow you to do that. And yeah, like I say, this is a whole new journey for me, and I really do hope that you stick around and you enjoy it just as much as I do, because like I said, this is a whole change for me. I've never done this before. I've done a little bit of content creation, but I've never done anything like this. And like I say, I'm not claiming to be some therapist or counsellor or someone who has all the answers. I'm just someone who wants to help and wants to share experiences and life experiences with you, an audience, so that you can kind of feel enlightened and feel motivated to make changes, or look at things differently, or to feel less alone through situations that you're going through. My podcast is built on the idea that we're going to fight a loneliness epidemic facing certain demographic groups, and if my podcast can do that through continuous consumption of my content, then that is such an incredible kind of award for this podcast, if that makes sense. But yeah, I do truly hope that you have enjoyed, and like I say, if you have any suggestions, please do let me know through any or all social media and website platforms, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye!